Okay, let's unpack this. May 4th, 2025. Philadelphia Union locking horns with the Columbus Crew. A Major League Soccer battle. Now, while the final whistle has blown, we're taking a fascinating dive into something that happened before the match. How artificial intelligence crunched the numbers to predict what might go down.
Exactly. We've got a hold of the Match Analysis Report, the Gambler's Ruin Project, powered by SmartBet AI.
Right.
The name has a bit of flair, maybe, but what's under the hood is a seriously data-driven attempt to understand the probabilities surrounding this specific contest. Forget, water cooler gossip. This is about algorithms and analysis.
Precisely. Think of this as your express route to being in the know about what the smart money, or rather, the smart algorithms were saying beforehand.
Yeah.
Our goal today isn't just to see if the AI got it right or wrong, but to understand how it arrived at its predictions. We're going way beyond a simple scoreline here.
And what's really interesting here is that SmartBet AI isn't a one-trick pony. It uses a blend of classic statistical techniques like Poisson regression, alongside some powerful machine learning tools, including random forest, XGBoost, and even a multi-layer perceptron neural network.
Wow, quite the toolkit.
Yeah, each of these methods takes a slightly different approach, a different angle on forecasting the game.
So let's maybe paint a quick picture of the match day itself. It was at Subaru Park in Chester, USA that evening.
Correct.
The report mentions mostly clear skies, a bit of wind maybe?
Yeah, standard conditions noted at the time. But beyond the atmosphere, what were the situations with the two teams heading in, player availability, that kind of thing?
That's always key, isn't it?
Always. If we connect this to the bigger picture, player availability is always a huge factor. For Philadelphia, forward Marcus Anderson was sidelined. Ankle injury.
Ouch.
Yeah, and no firm return date specified at the time of this analysis.
Okay.
On Columbus Crew, they were missing goalkeeper Nicholas Hagan hand injury and defender Rudy Camacho with a thigh issue. Again, both without a specified return timeline.
So key players out on both sides.
Definitely. These absences can really influence how a match plays out, You can't score as easily if your key attackers are out.
Right.
And a weakened defense, well, that could certainly affect the goals conceded. It's a real factor in the models.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that real-world factors always play a role. Now, the AI also delved into something called ELO ratings. For someone tuning in who might not know, what exactly do those tell us?
Good question. That raises an important point about gauging team strength. Think of ELO ratings as like a dynamic power ranking for sports teams. It originated in chess, actually.
Ah, okay. Like chess rankings.
Exactly like chess rankings. After every match, a team's ELO rating goes up or down based on the result and, crucially, the strength of the opponent they just played.
So beating a strong team gives you a bigger boost.
Precisely. Beating a team with a high ELO rating earns you more points than beating a lower-rated one. So it's a constantly evolving measure of performance, reflecting current form.
Okay, so it's like a running tally of who's been performing well against decent opposition. What did the ELO numbers look like for this Philadelphia versus Columbus game?
So the report showed Philadelphia Union with an ELO rating of 1499.37.
Okay.
While Columbus Crew had a slightly higher rating, 1561.36.
Ah, so a noticeable difference there.
A slight difference, yeah. It suggests that, based on their recent track records and the quality of their opponents, the Crew were considered the marginally stronger team overall going into the match.
Right, a slight historical edge to the Crew, according to ELO.
And these ratings can even sort of implicitly factor in things like recent injuries, potentially giving us more refined assessment than just looking at league tables.
Gotcha. Now, the AI also used Poisson regression to predict the number of goals. That sounds a bit statistical. How does that work in simple terms?
Yeah, it sounds complex, but the idea is fairly straightforward. Think of Poisson regression as a way to predict how many times an event, in this case, a goal is likely to occur over a set period, like 90 minutes. SmartBet AI uses it to estimate the expected number of goals for each team. It looks at a whole bunch of relevant factors, how well they've been scoring and defending lately, home advantage.
That's a big one.
Huge. Even what the betting odds suggest, plus those injuries we mentioned and the ELO ratings we just talked about.
So it pulls all that together.
Exactly. It's based on the idea that goals, while strategic, also tend to happen somewhat randomly, following a particular statistical pattern called a Poisson distribution.
Okay, makes sense. And what did this goal predicting model tell us about the Union and the Crew for this specific match?
The Poisson regression estimated 1.29 expected goals for Philadelphia playing at home.
Right.
and 1.41 expected goals for Columbus, the away team.
So pretty close, but a slight statistical nod towards Columbus being maybe a tiny bit more likely to score.
That's how the basic Poisson model saw it, yes.
Yeah. But just because you're expected to score, say, 1.4 goals doesn't mean you will. It's not like they score 0.4 of a goal. I saw the report also mention something called bootstrapped Poisson. What's the idea behind running like 10,000 simulations?
Exactly right. That's the key point, uncertainty. To get a better handle on that uncertainty, the AI runs the Poisson regression model thousands of times, 10,000 in this case.
Wow.
Yeah, each simulation represents a slightly different possible outcome, sampling from the underlying probabilities. This gives us not just a single expected number, but a whole range of potential goal counts. It helps us understand how likely different scenarios are.
So it's less about the prediction and more about the range of possibilities.
Precisely. It's like saying, okay, while we expect around 1.3 goals for Philly on average in these simulations, it could realistically be anywhere between, say, 0 and maybe 4. It paints a fuller picture.
Right. Gives us a sense of the possible spread. What did those 10,000 simulations actually show for the goals?
So the bootstrapped Poisson simulation predicted an average of 1.34 goals for Philadelphia, with a 95% confidence interval stretching from 0 up to 4 goals.
0 to 4. Quite a range.
It is. And for Columbus, the average was 1.46 goals, also with a 95% confidence interval of 0 to 4 goals.
In range?
Yep. So while the initial expected goals were hovering around 1.3 and 1.4, the simulations really highlight the very real possibility of a low-scoring game. Maybe 0-0 or 1-0.
Or even a blowout.
Or even a higher scoring game for either side. It really underscores the inherent unpredictability of a single football match.
Absolutely. Numbers give us probabilities, tendencies, but the beautiful chaos of the game itself is what counts. Now, the report then dives into machine learning, starting with something called random forest. What's that all about?
Right. Moving into the ML classifiers. Think of random forest as building a whole team of independent decision makers.
Okay.
It creates many different decision trees, maybe hundreds or thousands. Each tree looks at the historical match data in slightly different ways, focusing on different features.
Like different experts looking at the problem.
Kind of, yeah. And then it combines their individual predictions.
Yeah.
Basically takes a vote to arrive at a final answer for the match outcome.
Yeah.
Home win, draw, or away win.
Really?
And SmartBet AI trains this model on tons of past match data. It also uses a technique called SEEP-U. Yeah, it's a way to make sure the model has enough examples of all possible outcomes, wins, losses, and draws to learn from, even if, say, draws are less common in the historical data. It balances things out.
Important for fairness. So it's like getting a consensus from a lot of different perspectives within the data. What did this random forest model predict for our match?
The random forest model predicted an away win for Columbus Crew.
Okay, first definitive prediction, Columbus.
Yes. And the report gives us some metrics, precision, recall, and the F1 score that tell us how well the model performed on its test data for each possible outcome.
Right, the quality checks.
Exactly. For that away win prediction, those scores were around 0.53 for precision, 0.61 for recall, and 0.57 for the F1 score. These numbers give us an idea of the model's reliability for that specific prediction type.
So decent but not overwhelming confidence, maybe.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It helps quantify how often it gets away win right when it predicts it and how many of the actual away wins it manages to find.
Okay, an away win according to the random forest. Next up in the report is XGBoost. How is that different from our forest of trees?
XGBoost, which stands for extreme gradient boosting, is another very powerful machine learning method that also uses decision trees.
Okay, more trees.
More trees, but
Yeah.
built differently. Unlike random forest, where the trees are built more or less independently,
Right.
XGBoost builds them sequentially. Each new tree specifically tries to correct the mistakes made by the trees that came before it.
So it learns from errors as it goes.
Precisely. It's like having a team of experts who build upon each other's work, getting progressively better and focusing on the harder-to-predict cases. It's often very accurate.
Sounds powerful. And what was XGBoost's prediction for Philadelphia versus Columbus?
Interestingly, XGBoost predicted a home win for Philadelphia.
Oh, okay. A different outcome.
Exactly. So we're already seeing that different advanced machine learning techniques can look at the same data and come to different conclusions about the most likely result.
That's fascinating. The plot thickens.
It does. And again, the report provides those precision, recall, and F1 scores for each potential result, home win, draw, away win, allowing us to assess this model's confidence too.
So one advanced model says Columbus wins, another says Philadelphia wins. Now, the third machine learning classifier mentioned is an MLP neural network. That sounds pretty high tech.
It does sound advanced, doesn't it? And in a way, it is. An MLP, or multi-layer perceptron, is a type of deep learning model. It's kind of inspired by the structure of the human brain.
Okay.
It has multiple layers of interconnected nodes, or neurons. They can learn very complex, nonlinear patterns in data. It's potentially good at finding subtle relationships that simpler models might miss entirely.
So potentially seeing things the others don't. And what was the neural network's take on this particular match?
The MLP neural network sided with the random forest. It predicted an away win for Columbus.
Okay, so that's 2 for Columbus, 1 for Philly among the individual ML models.
Correct. And just like the other models, its classification report gives us those performance metrics, precision, recall, F1, offering insight into how well it typically does predicting each outcome.
Right. Okay, so 2 models leaning towards a Columbus victory, 1 for Philadelphia. But the AI analysis doesn't stop there, does it? It uses something called a stacked ensemble. What's the thinking behind combining these different models?
Yeah, that's a really smart approach, actually. It tries to leverage the strengths of each individual model we just discussed.
How does it do that?
A stacked ensemble basically takes the predictions from the base models, the random forest, XGBoost, and MLP in this case, and uses those predictions as input for another model.
Yeah.
The second model, often called a meta model or meta learner, learns how to best weight and combine those individual predictions to make a final, hopefully more accurate and robust forecast.
So it learns which models are maybe better at predicting certain types of games or outcomes.
Exactly. It's like having a panel of experts, our base models, and then having a seasoned analyst, the meta model, weigh their opinions based on their past performance and tendencies to produce a final consensus prediction.
That sounds like a way to get the most robust prediction possible, smoothing out individual model quirks. And what did this combined wisdom of the stacked ensemble predict?
The stacked ensemble ultimately predicted a home win for Philadelphia.
Back to Philly.
Yes, and the report notes an overall accuracy of about 0.62 or 62% for this stacked model based on how well it performed on unseen data during its development and testing phase.
So decent accuracy for the ensemble, pointing towards a home win. We've got a real mix of opinions from our AI analysts here.
We really do.
Finally, the report uses a Monte Carlo simulation, but this one is based on the Poisson regression results. How does that give us yet another way to look at the game?
Right, so this circles back to the Poisson model's expected goals, but takes it further. While the bootstrap Poisson gave us a sense of the range of total goals.
Yeah, the 0 to 4 range.
The Monte Carlo simulation uses those initial expected goal rates, 1.29 for home, 1.41 for away, and simulates the entire match, goal by goal, thousands of times. Again, 10,000 simulations here.
Okay, like playing the match virtually over and over.
Precisely. This allows us to estimate the probability of very specific score lines like 1-0 or 2-1 or 1-1, as well as tallying up the overall probabilities of a home win, a draw, or an away win across all those simulated games.
So it's turning those expected goal fractions into probabilities of actual results. What probabilities did this virtual playing field produce? What were the most likely outcomes?
Okay, so the simulation gave us probabilities for specific scores. The single most likely scoreline was a 1-1 draw, which occurred in 11.63% of the simulations.
A draw, interesting. What else was likely?
Following that were a 0-1 away win for Columbus at 9.71%, then a 1-0 home win for Philly at 8.78%, and a 1-2 away win, again for Columbus, at 8.65%. So the top few scorelines are pretty tightly clustered in probability.
Very close. And the overall win-draw-less probabilities from the Monte Carlo?
When we look at the overall results from those 10,000 simulations, it estimated a 34.47% chance of a home win for Philadelphia,
Okay.
a 25.06% chance of a draw,
Right.
and a 40.47% chance of an away win for Columbus.
So the Monte Carlo simulation, based purely on those initial expected goals, actually gave the highest probability to an away win for Columbus.
That's right. Despite the most likely single score being a draw, the cumulative probability leaned towards an away victory in that simulation.
So just to quickly recap here, this is quite a journey. The initial Poisson model leaned slightly towards more Columbus goals. Then the machine learning models were split. Random forest and the neural network predicted a Columbus win, while XGBoost and the sophisticated stacked ensemble favored Philadelphia.
Correct.
And finally, the Monte Carlo simulations, based on the Poisson inputs, gave the highest overall probability to an away win, but with a draw being the most likely single scoreline.
It really highlights that even with all this sophisticated analysis, predicting a single football match is a complex and inherently uncertain business.
Absolutely. This shows us that even within the realm of AI, different approaches, different algorithms analyzing the same base data can lead to a whole spectrum of predictions about just one event.
It really does. What this deep dive hopefully illustrates is that even with cutting-edge AI and, mountains of data, forecasting sports outcomes remains fundamentally probabilistic.
Yeah.
Different models, each examining the data through its own unique lens, its own biases and strengths, can legitimately arrive at diverse conclusions. There's no single magic bullet.
So for you tuning in, we hope this has provided a rapid yet thorough understanding of the kind of analysis that goes into these high-tech predictions. And hopefully it's given you a few aha moments about the different ways AI can tackle the same forecasting challenge.
Right, it gives you a clearer picture, perhaps, of the complexities involved in trying to predict something as dynamic and, frankly, sometimes random as a football match.
And it really underscores that there's often no single crystal ball answer when it comes to predicting the future in sports.
None at all.
So here's where it gets really interesting, maybe for you to think about. Considering all these different ways the AI looked at this match, from expected goals, the different ML models, the ensemble, the simulations, what single piece of information from this whole analysis do you find most compelling in trying to understand how this game might have gone and why?
That's a good question to ponder.
Is it maybe the slight ELO advantage the crew had coming in? Or perhaps the home win prediction from that sophisticated stacked ensemble model? Or maybe it's those specific scoreline probabilities from the Monte Carlo simulation, like the high chance of a 1-1 draw.
Yeah.
It makes you consider which approach resonates most with your own understanding of football and prediction, doesn't it? And why that might be.
It truly makes you think about what factors you, just as an observer, intuitively weigh most heavily when you're trying to anticipate the result of a match yourself. Is it form? Is it home advantage? Key players.
Exactly. One final but very important point to keep in mind before we wrap up. This analysis we've discussed, it's purely for informational purposes.
Crucial point.
These predictions are not guarantees, obviously, and they should definitely not be taken as betting advice. Always remember to engage with this kind of information responsibly and, for your own understanding and enjoyment.
Indeed. It's about understanding the possibilities, not predicting the definite future. And on that note, I think we bring this deep dive to a close.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next time for another look beneath the surface.